The push to use public dollars to help parents pay for private school draws people from all over Texas to a marathon hearing with House lawmakers.
That's why we have committee hearings.
Yes.
At
Have you considered
3 in the morning.
Texans waiting into the early morning hours to have their say. We dig into the hearing and what comes next.
We're growing very rapidly as a state. Easy water is gone.
Finding solutions to keep water flowing in Texas. Why some Texas leaders are looking to get water from the Gulf to make sure the state has enough to meet future needs.
We just don't have enough water to take care of what we normally farm.
Water shortages hit Texas farmers, and the impact could trickle down to your wallet. Now Texas lawmakers are putting pressure on Mexico with billions of dollars on the line.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Dylan McKim. A big moment in the battle over whether to allow parents to use public funds to pay for private schools. A Texas House committee held a hearing on the bill to establish an education savings account program on Tuesday. Well, Tuesday and Wednesday to be exact, because more than 300 people signed up to speak and testimony wrapped up nearly 22 hours after the hearing started. It gave supporters and opponents of the legislation a chance to make their voices heard. Supporters of House Bill 3 call it a way to give parents school choice.
I think that this bill will be a godsend for many of those parents who felt stranded and locked in because of their social economic status or the neighborhood that they lived in.
HB 3 would provide families close to $11,000 per student. The program has limited funding. Disabled children and those from lower income families get priority. But any family can apply, regardless of their income. That remains a sticking point for some lawmakers.
To prioritize and give access to low-income kids, but in the same breath, you said we can't stop millionaires and billionaires from participating. So if this is for low-income kids, why don't we do that? Why don't we cap the income to make sure that it's not wealthier families who take advantage of this like in other states?
Inference that simply because you're not wealthy, that you can't access these programs, or you're not up, that somehow lower income families won't do this is just not true.
While this bill has stalled in the House before, it looks to have the votes now, with over half the House listed as an author. However, some Democrats say their heart isn't really in it.
I've never had so many colleagues, including Republican colleagues, including some who are signed on this bill, privately tell me they hate this issue because it is not about education, it's about politics.
Republicans say it's about helping families.
Will parents have more or less choices if this bill passes? More options for their kids or less options?
More options.
Will it be perfect? No.
That was just the beginning of the hearing, and as we mentioned, it took 22 hours to get through all of the invited and public testimony. And our Capitol correspondent Adam Schwager, he had the fun assignment to actually sit down and watch this. He watched a good portion of this hearing. Talk to us. We knew this was going to take a long time. We didn't really necessarily think it was going to be 22 hours worth, but what really contributed to this being so long?
Right, we were talking in the newsroom beforehand, hey, this might go past midnight is what we were going. It went 6.5 hours past midnight, so I got there that Tuesday at 8 a.m., did my story. By the time I got home at around 7, I popped open the stream again, and they were saying, okay, we're going into witness testimony right now. We have 335 people signed up. There was 3 overflow rooms filled with people waiting to testify, and a lot of them did take that opportunity, as we saw 6:30 in the morning, and at the end of you could see legislators stretching their legs, just trying to get some feeling back after having to do that for so long.
Yeah, people waited a long time to testify. They drove in from different cities in Texas just to come and plead their case or plead their opinion. And at the end of the day, no action was taken. This bill, House Bill 3, was left pending in the committee, which means it's not going to the House floor for a vote. What was the reason for that?
Yeah, we can't necessarily read into the legislators' minds. They didn't give any specific reasons, but it's not necessarily atypical, especially when you take 22.5 hours to get through something like that. But one of the things is they heard a lot of different testimony, some coming from both sides of the aisle, but some pointing out very specific issues with the bill that I think even some of the legislators who are in favor of HB 3 had some issues with. Here's one testimony of a possible legal challenge that was brought up.
If a parent disagrees with an administrative decision made by the comptroller or the EOA selected by the comptroller, they have to appeal that decision to the comptroller. They decide to file suit against the state. The bill does not permit the recovery of attorney's fees against the state, regardless of the outcome of this case.
So the author of the bill, Representative Buckley, he said that wasn't his intention. He doesn't want it to be that it's cost prohibitive for families if they end up getting in a dispute with the state over this to be able to have that legal challenge. And one thing that is interesting to note, next week's meeting has already been announced, and as of right now, HB 3 is not on that docket. Once again, it could come up anytime the rest of this session, which still has months to go, but it's something that is worth noting at this point.
Yeah, it has a lot of attention, right? How many people signed up to speak, and you mentioned a majority of the people who registered to provide their testimony were in opposition to House Bill 3, but certainly in these 22 hours, we heard some supporters come out to speak in favor of this bill. Was there anything that stuck out to you in the support talk?
Yeah, there was a young woman. She got up there at around 12:30 in the morning. She's from the Rio Grande Valley, and she said when she was in high school, her teacher went up, wrote a bunch of statistics on the whiteboard, saying that less than 10% of people in the Rio Grande Valley were college ready based on ACT and SAT scores. And when she brought that home to her mother, they thought, okay, let's look at some areas. Maybe we should go and look at some private schools to help you succeed and beat those statistics. But when they started looking around, this is what she found.
My quality education didn't make the budget. In the RGV, 90% of us are Hispanic, and so many of us are first-generation college and high school graduates like myself. Our abuelos, our parents, make numerous sacrifices to give us the American dream, yet so often the public school system fails to meet us there.
And that is powerful stuff from someone who could be helped by a bill like HB 3, although opponents of HB 3 would likely, they'd combat and say, what are the chances that she would have gotten into those private schools anyway, given her circumstances to be able to get it? As we've heard a lot from the some of the opponents of this, they say it's the private school's choice, not school choice.
Yeah, a huge debate going on right now in not just our state capital, but all around the state right now. And a lot to follow. You're going to continue on top of that. Adam, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you for having me.
Texas schools could soon get more money for school safety. Wednesday afternoon, the state Senate approved Senate Bill 260. It doubles the amount public schools receive from the state per campus to pay for safety and security, and nearly triples the amount they receive per student.
Senate Bill 260 reaffirms our commitment to making schools safer for our students and educators by providing additional financial resources so that districts can pursue increased safety measures.
The bill passed with unanimous support in the Senate. It now heads to the Texas House.
We always try to bring people up, like myself and a lot of cavalry of other men and women, to make them better so that they can serve their communities.
A rare honor at the state capitol, lawmakers and colleagues pay tribute to a Texan who devoted his life to public service. There's work at the Capitol to help Texas find new supplies of water, how Texas voters could help create a dedicated stream of revenue to make it happen. A rare tribute at the Texas Capitol for a man who dedicated his life to public service. On Thursday, the flag-draped casket of Congressman Sylvester Turner was carried into the House chamber to lie in honor before his funeral on Saturday. Turner died earlier this month. He was just 2 months into his first term in Congress. Turner served 2 terms as mayor of Houston, and before that, he spent nearly 30 years in the Texas House. On Tuesday, his former colleagues at the Capitol held a memorial service in the House chamber. Those who knew him remember Turner as a leader who worked to make a difference in the lives of the people he served.
What mattered to him was other people. And I think in this day and age, that type of leadership is now few and far between. I hope that Sylvester knew how much he was loved and how many lives he's changed.
His legacy is that he didn't forget the little people, that he always tried to bring people up, like myself and a lot of cavalry of other men and women to make them better so that they can serve their communities, and that he was a real public servant.
Turner was 70 years old. He took over the seat that was held by Sheila Jackson Lee after she died. It is up to Governor Abbott to decide when to call a special election to replace Turner. The Texas Senate passed a bill that aims to help Texans live longer, healthier lives. Senate Bill 25 is part of the Make Texas Healthy Again initiative. It would require a nutrition curriculum at medical schools and more exercise for children at school. It would also require labels to disclose certain chemicals in our foods. A key goal is to help Texans make healthy choices when it comes to what they eat.
We will form a new Texas Nutrition Advisory Committee composed of independent voices who will examine the proven links between ultra-processed foods and artificial dyes and artificial additives and chronic health and nutrition. They will make dietary recommendations to help us better understand what we are eating.
The bill received unanimous support in the Senate. The legislation now goes to the Texas House. The search for solutions to keep water flowing in Texas. Why some are looking to the Gulf to make sure the state has the supply to meet future needs.
We just don't have enough water to take care of what we normally farm.
Farmers facing a water shortage, and the impact could trickle down to your wallet. Now Texas lawmakers are putting pressure on Mexico to prevent billions of dollars being lost.
We're going to put Texas on a path to have plenty of water for the next 5 decades.
Governor Greg Abbott said he wanted a Texas-sized investment in water infrastructure during his State of the State address. Now, lawmakers are following through, filing 2 constitutional amendments to infuse more money into the Texas Water Fund. Experts say it's a step in the right direction for a state running out of water. It's a big investment with a big promise to increase the state's water supply. Texas voters approved a one-time investment of $1 billion into the Texas Water Fund back in 2023. The Texas Water Development Board, the agency controlling the fund, has committed more than $48 million to fully fund water loss projects in rural areas. But experts say the state is growing fast and more investment is needed.
It was a good measure and a good appropriation, but it's literally a drop in the bucket compared to the $154 billion that we need to invest long-term.
2 joint resolutions filed in the Capitol would create a dedicated funding stream for the Texas Water Fund, pouring up to $2 billion every year into the fund. Some of that money will be used to find new supplies of water. Dr. Robert Mace, the executive director for the Meadows Center for Water and the Environment at Texas State University, said the near future of Texas water is reuse and conservation.
We're growing very rapidly as a state. Easy water is gone.
El Paso has become a worldwide leader in new technologies like direct potable reuse, which taps into our wastewater supply.
Directly taking that water from the wastewater treatment plant, completely cleaning it up, and putting it back into our drinking water system.
El Paso Water broke ground on a new facility to do just that and plans to grow its desalination plant capacity, the largest inland plant in the world. That plant converts brackish groundwater into drinkable water, providing 10% of El Paso's drinking water every year. On the other side of the state, experts are looking to tap into the Gulf. The city of Corpus Christi is building a seawater desalination plant, which Dr. Mace says will be a big part of the state's water future moving forward.
It's a practically limitless supply. The Gulf isn't going anywhere.
Farmers in South Texas say a lack of water has them in survival mode. The state is now looking to get relief through a long-standing water treaty with Mexico. Under the treaty, Mexico is supposed to deliver water to the United States, but Mexico is billions of gallons behind as it deals with water shortages of its own. As drought conditions persist along the border, farmers and local officials are looking to the state capitol for help. They're urging Texas lawmakers to push the federal government to hold Mexico accountable and get more water.
And we're in dire straits right now.
Brian Jones is a 4th-generation farmer in Hidalgo County. He and other farmers do not have enough water.
This is my 3rd year where I'm only basically planting half of my farm because I don't have enough water to take care of the entire farm.
The problem, Jones said, is coming from Mexico, not holding up its end of an 80-year-old treaty. Mexico is supposed to release 1.75 million acre-feet of water to the U.S. every 5 years. The current 5-year cycle ends in October this year, and state officials say Mexico is behind almost 1 million acre-feet. That's billions of gallons of water.
We just don't have enough water to take care of what we normally farm.
One of the biggest products from the Rio Grande Valley is grapefruit, but as farmers get less water, their output of things like grapefruit will also go down. In fact, in 2024, Texas A&M AgriLife estimated there was a direct loss of nearly $500 million in revenue because of a lack of water. Jones said that means you'll see less Texas products at the grocery store, which will have to be replaced by products from different states or countries like Mexico, which is in the midst of a trade war with the U.S. after President Trump issued 25% tariffs on Mexican goods, making them more expensive for you, the consumer.
For Brownsville Public Utilities.
But it's not just farmers hurting. Cities in the Rio Grande Valley are also concerned, testifying about their fears to senators on Monday.
If this continues, drinking water for cities like Brownsville, McAllen, Harlingen will be at risk.
Texas senators will soon vote on a resolution to compel the U.S. government to hold Mexico accountable to the water treaty. But lawmakers also know Texas will have to do more this session than rely on Mexico for water.
This is water session. This is when we put things in place that 10, 20 years out from now, we look back and say this was when that got solved.
In November, both countries signed an amendment to the treaty meant to increase predictability of the water deliveries. South Texas Congresswoman Monica de la Cruz says the administration must make sure those water deliveries happen.
We lost our sugar industry, and we are on the verge of losing our citrus industry as well. So I will focus specifically on water in the 119th Congress and ask the White House to put pressure on the Mexican government that they abide by their contractual duty of the 1944 water treaty and deliver us the water that we need.
De la Cruz filed a congressional resolution to condemn Mexico's government for failing to fulfill water deliveries. She also met with President Trump at the White House in February to push to hold Mexico accountable. But Mexico is facing serious water issues of its own. Last summer, heat waves and water shortages became so severe, people in the Mexico City metropolitan area took to the streets to protest. Police even joined the demonstrations by blocking traffic. Officers who took part said their barracks didn't have water for weeks. As water levels hit historic lows, Mexican authorities in control of reservoirs imposed water rationing. Climate change, rapid growth, and leaking infrastructure are all factors in Mexico's water issues. Texas lawmakers push for new regulations on Botox injections. How legislation moving forward at the Capitol could bring more safety protocols to protect patients. A major step this week at the Texas State Capitol to tighten rules for who can do Botox injections and similar treatments. The legislation comes after our investigation highlighted the need for more oversight for patient safety. As Investigator Arezow Doost explains, health advocates are demanding more transparency and regulations.
I'll call this the Botox party bill. This is what it's been referred to.
At a Senate Business and Commerce Committee hearing at the Capitol, Senator Charles Schwager, who's also a doctor, laid out a bill focused on patient safety.
There have been increased reports of estheticians administering unauthorized and unsafe injections to friends and family without proper physician supervision.
The bill would prevent barbers, cosmetologists, and estheticians from administering Botox and other injectables unless they're licensed or authorized to give the shots. The legislation would also give the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation more authority.
The Texas Medical Board has disciplinary jurisdiction over physicians, but authority over the estheticians is unclear. This lack of clarity is resulting in the inability to pursue disciplinary action.
In Texas, anyone can get trained to administer Botox as long as it's under the supervision of a medical professional.
Somebody needs to be regulating what's going on.
Dr. Patricia Aronin with Texas 400, a group of doctors advocating for patient protection, spoke in favor of the bill.
People who have gotten delegating authority from a physician, who instead of doing that in the confines of a controlled environment, are bringing the stuff home and having a Botox party at their house, or having a pop-up Botox clinic in a boutique clothing store, or going to a hair salon, getting your hair done and getting an IV infusion at the same time. It's scary.
So what's next? The Senate committee will review the bill, and if it gets voted out, it'll head to the Senate floor. Another bill we're watching closely would also increase requirements for med spas, including IV therapy. The legislation filed recently defines elective cosmetic procedures as the practice of medicine. The bill also says a trained physician must be present, or at least one person trained in basic life support must be there at the time of the procedure. And if the physician is not on site, a notice must be posted. At the Capitol, Arezow Doost, State of Texas.
The push for more oversight comes after the Texas Medical Board issued new rules last month, which provide more clarity and transparency. For more about the new requirements in the Texas case that highlighted concerns from police and health advocates, head to our website and click on the links in this week's State of Texas story section. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Dylan McKim. We'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.